Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a melon farm and then how to put those melons into an item sorter, and this should work in Bedrock and Java Edition. So first we're going to start out by making a 17 by 17 square, and then I'm going to pause the recording here so you guys don't have to watch me do that. Okay, so as you guys can see, I have made a 17 by 17 square, and then now the next step is just fill in that square, and then I'll come back when I've done that. Okay guys, so I just finished filling in the square, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna want to cut a channel through the middle. So we're gonna go over 8 blocks, and then we're just gonna cut down the middle, and then leave a 2 space gap. We're gonna put a block here, and then we're gonna get a redstone torch, put it on the block, and then we're gonna take some redstone dust, and we are going to take some redstone dust and put it over here, and then we're actually going to put that into a repeater. Okay, and then after we put the redstone dust over there, we're going to put a repeater here facing away from the redstone torch, and then we're just going to put a repeater every other block. Okay, and then after that we're going to come back and we're going to put a block in between those repeaters, and make sure that the block that you put down isn't a transparent block, so like glass for example. Make sure it's a solid block like solid stone, which is what I'm using here. And then after that we're going to go over here and we're going to put a block here and then a powered rail here, and then we're going to put normal rails all the way down, and then after we get over here we're going to skip this row and go on to the next, and then when we get over to this solid block we're going to put another powered rail, and then we're just going to do that all the way until we reach the end. Okay, and then after you guys have finished putting down all those rails, you're going to make a 2 by 5 hole, and then you're gonna put 2 chests here temporarily, there and there, and then you're gonna want to go over here and you're gonna want to put 2 hoppers facing towards the chests, and you can make sure the hoppers are facing towards the chest by making sure that that funnel is going towards the chest. And then after that you're going to want to grab just any block and then leave 1 block room, put 2 blocks on top of each other, 1 block on each side, destroy the middle block, put a redstone torch on the right side of the bottom block, and then put a redstone repeater facing towards the hoppers, and then you're going to want to put a comparator facing towards the hoppers. And then after that you're going to want to hold shift while placing 2 powered rails on top of the hoppers, and now you can remove this chest. And then after you've made that, you're going to want to come over here and put a layer of dirt over this entire platform. And then I'll be back once I've done that. And after you've laid down that layer of dirt, we're going to put 2 layers of glass around the side. And then I'm going to come back when I'm done with that. And then after you guys have finished placing those 2 layers of glass, you're going to want to go back, and then wherever you see rails, you're going to want to place a piston on the second layer of glass. And then you're going to want to make sure that the pistons are facing downwards. And then after you guys have finished placing all those pistons, you're going to want to put an observer in between the pistons. You want to make sure that this little red dot is facing up. And after you guys have finished doing that, you're going to want to come down here and you're going to want to move this powered rail over here. And then make sure you also move this redstone dust too, and the repeater. And after you guys have done that, you're going to want to come over 9 blocks, and then you're going to want to delete 2 blocks, and then you're going to want to temporarily put a dirt block right there. And then you're going to want to put stone stairs right there and make sure they're facing up. And then you're going to want to break one more dirt, place a dirt in between you and the stairs, and put a water bucket in the stairs. And then after that, you're going to want to use a hoe to till all of the dirt. And then also, as a side note, before you guys start tilling all the other dirt, you're going to want to place a row of dirt around the glass and then put stone stairs with water in it on each corner and probably in the center too, just like you did here. Okay, as you guys can see, I ended up having to put a water source here, here, and here. So on the left and right sides and in the middle of each side. And then the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put a glowstone on each stair with water. Okay, and then after you guys are done placing all the glowstone, you're going to want to plant melon seeds underneath all the observers. So where there's an observer, plant melon. Where there's a piston, don't plant melon. Okay, so I just finished planting all the seeds, and I also decided to put glowstone on top of each water source, and I also decided to break each block above each glowstone. And so now the next thing you guys are going to want to do is you're going to want to put redstone dust on top of each of these. And then because I broke the blocks, it isn't going to be able to reach all of them. But all you want is for the observers to reach the pistons around them. And then you're just going to do that until you get to the end. Okay, and then after you guys have finished putting down all that redstone, you're gonna want to come over here, and it doesn't matter how far away it is, but you're just gonna want to go in a straight line going from that second hopper. And you're just gonna go over here, and then you're gonna start building like a plus sign shape with the middle hollow. And then it doesn't matter how big this is, it can be as big as you want it to be. And then I'll be back when I'm done. Okay, and then after you guys are done building this, you're going to want to put a dispenser in the wall at the bottom. And it doesn't matter how far down you do it. I'm going to place it 3 blocks down. You just need to be able to reach the top of the dropper. And make sure that the dropper is facing towards the inside of the tunnel. And then you're going to come back out. And then you're going to go over here. And I put mine 3 blocks down, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Actually 4 blocks down. And then you can see my dropper right here. I'm going to put a hopper on top of that. And we're just going to have hoppers going from here all the way over to here. And I'll be back once that's done. Okay, and then after you guys are done with that, you're going to want to go to this first hopper right here. And you're going to want to put another hopper going into this hopper. And then I'm just going to cover this up to make it look better. And then we're going to go back down to the bottom of this. And you can see our hoppers right here. We're going to dig down and then replace that block with a dirt block. And then we're going to put a bucket of water at the top. And then we're going to plant some kelp at the bottom. And then you want the kelp to be going from the bottom all the way up to the top. And then I'll come back once I'm done with that. Okay, and then after you're done planting the kelp, you're going to want to go back to the bottom, destroy the kelp, and replace the dirt block with soul sand. And then as you can see, it just shot me up to the top. And that's what we're going to use to propel our items from the farm over to our item sorter, which is going to be over here. Okay, but first, before we build the item sorter, we're going to want to come back down here. We're going to have to go back to our dropper here, and we're going to want to place a comparator facing towards the back of the dropper, and then you're going to want to get a repeater, and you're going to want to place a repeater going out from the comparator, and then you're going to want to place some redstone dust here, 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 and here, and then you're also going to want to place some redstone dust here and here, and then put a repeater here. And then just test to make sure everything works, we're going to put an item in here, and then that should go into our dispenser, and you can hear it clicking, and then that should come up at the top. Okay, and now onto the item sorter. Again, it doesn't matter how far the item sorter is, just keep in mind the farther away the item sorter is, the taller you're going to have to make this. And then we're going to start out by grabbing some chests, and then we're going to, for me, I'm going to place 5 double chests down. You can place however many you want, and then we're going to have another row of double chests on top of that row of double chests. And this can be done by crouching while placing a chest. Okay, and then after that, you're going to want to put a hopper facing into each chest, and then after that, you're going to want to come down here, leave a 1 block space, and put a row of blocks, and then you want that to go along your entire row of chests. So for here, I need to put down 5. If you had 8 chests, you would put down 8. If you had 10 chests, you would put down 10, etc. And then you're going to leave another 1 block space and do the same thing. And then after you've done that, you're going to want to put repeaters facing towards the chests, and then you're going to want to put redstone torches on the sides of these row of blocks that are closest to the hoppers. And then after that, you're going to want to put another row of blocks here, and then basically make like a T shape. And then after you've done that, you're going to want to put a comparator along the top next to the hoppers, and make sure that the comparator is facing towards the hoppers. And then we're just going to put some redstone dust here, connecting all of the comparators together. And then after that, we're going to connect a hopper to these comparators, and make sure that these hoppers are actually connected to the comparators, not the hoppers underneath them. And then after that, we're going to put a temporary block right here, and we're going to put a chest on top of that temporary block. Then we can destroy the temporary block, and we're going to put hoppers going from this chest all the way down. And then we're going to have the last hopper hang out one. Okay, and then after you've done that, you're going to want to build a path for the water in here to travel into that far right hopper. So we're going to just put one here, and we're just going to build a pathway for it. And then I'll be back when that's done. Okay, and then after you guys have done that, you can see for me, I have a pathway going to here, and it's dropping down into that far right hopper. Make sure it's dropping down into that one and not any of the other ones, otherwise it won't work. And then after that, we're going to put like a little cover over the top of this, so that when the blocks come out, they don't fall over the edge. And then after we're done with that, we're going to go back over here, and we're going to grab an anvil, and we're also going to take a stack. Doesn't have to be a stack, but it just has to be 4 times the number of chests you have, and we are going to rename it. So I'll be back once I have a full stack of grass blocks. Okay, and then once you guys have that full stack or however many blocks you need, you're going to place down your anvil. You're going to want to put your grass block in this slot, and you can name it whatever you want. I'm going to name it filter, and then I'm going to put that right here, and then you can keep this anvil here if you want to, you don't have to. And then we're going to go back over to these hoppers, the ones that you hooked up the comparator to, and we're going to put one filter block in the first 4 slots, and then we're going to do that for each hopper, and then I'll be back once I'm done with that. Okay, and then after you guys have done that, you're going to want to take whatever item you want to be sorted. So if I put dirt right here, only dirt will go into that chest. If I put stone here, only stone will go here. In this case, I'm going to put only melon slices, and then you're just going to do that for all the hoppers. And for these last 2, instead of melon slices, I'm going to have it do glistening melon slices. And then whatever items don't get sorted, so say it picks up like some redstone dust, it'll just go into this chest over here. Unless you have a filter assigned for redstone dust, then it'll go into that chest. And then the next thing we gotta do is come over here and get a minecart with a hopper. Make sure that minecart has a hopper in it, and then we're gonna place it on this track, and that will collect any watermelons that grow. Okay, and then after you guys have done that, the next thing you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to come over here, and you're going to want to make sure that you have a block here and that this powered rail is lit, and then you're also going to want to put a lever on the back of this block. Hey guys, one more thing I forgot to mention. Make sure that you break this block so that the water can carry the items into the item sorter, and also make sure it goes diagonally down like this, otherwise it'll just stop flowing after 15 blocks and your items will get stuck. Hey guys, it's Future Me again. I just noticed sometimes watermelons will get stuck on the sides, so to fix that, we're going to just build a cover over it. So just put a block across it. That should just keep the watermelons from bouncing onto the sides. And then I'll show you guys what mine looks like once I'm done. Okay, and so this is my cover when it's done. So you notice I just raised the sides by 1 block, and then I put a cover over the middle. I decided to use glass for the cover because I'd like to be able to see what's happening. You don't have to do that. You can use all the same block or different blocks if you want to. And then I think that about wraps up the video. Thanks so much guys for watching, and then if you like the video, please like and make sure to share the video with your friends, and please subscribe.